did you go about recording your first album? Suicide.
We did it live.
You did it live?
Yeah, the whole album took about 25 minutes. It was like it was what we had been doing live up to that time for years already.
It took 25 years to make stuff.
Yeah. we cut it together. We did it in one take, basically. We did a live thing. Did one track after the other. It was just like that. Yeah.
So when you first started performing, you had the technology that was available to you then, and when you perform now, do you incorporate any sort of new technology that wasn't available to you when you're performing the songs the first time?
Oh yeah. I kind of moved out of those instruments less than a year later. Started going. I was always going after what was out at the time. So now it's been like X amount of generations since then. And I'm not really into keeping the vintage sound that way. I've never been. We're kind of always looking for what can be done now. What's been invented.
But it started with the older.
It was
the old drum machine that we started.
Yeah, actually, when we started.
Miraculously discovered.
Yeah, when we started, it was actually Alan's true that right that it's older stuff already because of the Farfisa organ, which had been out for some time. The drum machine was a one of a kind that even drum machine users had never heard of, and had been out for a while. And that's all that's really all we use. So it's as soon as we got a little money, equipment budget, for the label, a couple of bucks, I got a new organ and new rhythm machine, and then we were on our second album. We actually got a sizable equipment budget and had we went and got tons of stuff which I never ended up using. And but it's always been that way. Hardware was great in those years. As you probably know, they were coming out with new stuff all the time. Thank the Japanese, actually. I have to give them credit for that. It's constantly, and it's waned quite a bit since then, of course. But really inventive, small stuff too, light, that you could carry, you could travel.
Well, recently you started doing stuff like orchestral sounds and things like that, like almost classical, traditional things on top of it.
Yeah.
Is that going against the moving ahead kind of thing, or?
No, well, it could. It's not for me to say, really. No, it is. It wasn't really because it was. For me, it wasn't. It was moving ahead in the sense that it was doing it all out of another place, digitally. Being able to access an orchestra on my, at home on my laptop. So it was. What I realized was that there is, I usually feel that if you don't have a new, like with all music and all art, if you don't have anything creatively cutting edge within 2 to 3 years after the last movement, the movement's really basically cycled. And we see this now in European classical, jazz, dance, painting, everything, rock, really. And what amazed me was that because of the technology, there was something that you could actually access out of symphonic music again, and actually that wasn't discovered yet, that was live. And I kind of corrected, it kind of brought out the mistake in my own theory, because there's something that has been dead for some time in terms of its creative movement. And all of a sudden there's life in it, because technology kind of opens up something, and then there's something that was hidden underneath that hadn't yet been explored, that, but you can't do that in all the disciplines, apparently.
What technology are you using now, and is there any of the gear you used to use in the old days that you've held on to?
I held on to it, but I don't use it, basically.
So none of it?
I've sampled, occasionally, I've sampled sometimes the original drum machine, but that's only recently, to do stuff, that we do now. We give it another kind of an edge, though. What I use now is what I would have used then if it had been invented. Very, the keyboard and up to date MIDI keyboard, and I sample my own rhythm tracks. I use portable samplers, live, and module sounds, contemporary ones. It's still as basic as it was then in terms of it's still stripped down and portable and light like that. It's the same kind of stuff. But I really look to keep the old stuff on stage, the organs and stuff like that.
I've been working on a soldering for the last 4 years, and I'm using something that has probably been used in about 15 to 20 years. And I've been finding that you could actually get new shit out of it, man. I don't know how or why, but it, like, either I came to it 20 years later and I have a whole new viewpoint on life in general, so I have a whole new viewpoint about music and art, or I'm just turning on this thing and discovering sounds that I were there before, but I don't think I ever heard them before, and now I'm hearing them now because of who I am now. So again, it's like what Marty was saying, you can pick up something like 10, 15 years ago, and suddenly becomes something totally new, or I'm using it in a whole new way. And that's what I think a lot of the producers, the people who are making music, musicians, are not doing. You know, they're kind of like buying the latest, up-to-datest thing that they can find, and using it like directly. I mean, I've heard people like Michael Jackson, all those other people that you could tell, the Cars, they get something that's of now because it sounds so fresh, and they use it just that way. But what you begin to find out, if you keep this stuff around long enough, sometimes you put it away for years and come back to it, it has layers and layers and layers and layers of stuff that you don't hear right away because you're so used to hearing, whoa, that's a nice new sound. But if you keep going, it has all these great, that's why again, with the Japanese or whoever is inventing these things, are totally amazing. They put in all this shit in there, man, and it's like unbelievable. But you have to go find it and search for it. That's why it takes me 4 years to do a record sometimes, or 5 years, because I keep going and going, and every time I think I'm finished, I turn a button, and all of a sudden I'm in a new world. And I have to keep going with the new world until I turn a button again, and then I'm in another new world, and in another new world, and in another new world, just it doesn't stop, until it finally stops one day. You just say, enough. You know, I go into another piece of equipment or something.
From then till now, how much has your set changed? You know, when you play live, do you guys still try to have that same feeling, or is it, you know, you guys, like you said, your lives are changing. Do you guys try to present that in your shows? Or?
I don't think you even have to try. You just are. Yeah, yeah. I basically, not speaking for Alan, but I think he feels similar. That I feel the same way I did when we first started. In terms of when you're on stage, you know, it's just this kind of something happens internally. And it's not really necessarily the great thing about it is it's not a conceptual or preconceived thing. You're not thinking about it to do it. You're thinking about what you're doing what you're doing, and that's creating the energy too, plus the environment, the audience, and everything.
Yeah, you just never know. It's like there are days I'm ready to go out and I go, man, I can't do this thing. I just can't do it. It's just gonna be the worst show of all time. And that sometimes turns out to be the best show of all time. You just we never will know. I mean, there is somewhat of a structure because I have the lyrics, Marty has the music, but just sometimes you start flipping the lyrics all over the place anyway. I don't give a shit, you know what I mean, man? Or he just at some point goes, I don't give a shit. But that, you know, like I say, who knows? Some nights I swear, some nights I walk out there, I go, I can't do this thing. I can't do this thing, and that turns out to be the best show. Or some nights I go, I can do this, and it turns out to be the worst show. But you never know, and like, sometimes we hit the mark, and sometimes we don't, but that's like life. That's the way life is all about. Sometimes you're ready to go, and you can't. And sometimes you can't go, and you do it, you know. You get stronger as a result. I don't know. But, so I can't tell you what it's going to be like, you know. But that's kind of cool.
I can't wait.
I love that about suicide, man. You just never know. That's why we've been around for 40 years. Because you never know.
You're making art at the same time you're doing music. Do you feel like some pieces are connected, both the songs?
They probably do. It's like I always figure that we have our fingerprints. You know, it's stuck into everything we do. You can't get away from those fingerprints. But I do know that for some reason, sometimes in my life, I have to be just doing music. Like, that's what I'm doing right now, especially I'm writing the lyrics right now for the new album. I just finished actually. And it totally absorbed me. For a while, I couldn't write at all. I got so much into a visual thing. So I just can't do music, I can't write lyrics. And then for some reason, the switch goes on or off, I don't know which way. Now I want to do just music, or just write lyrics, you know. I get absorbed in that, and I can't do any visual art for some reason. I don't know why that is. It's got a double brain or something. But it works out, yeah. But I know you can't get away from yourself. There is some connection between the two things. And the same with Marty, he does some really beautiful drawings and stuff. You know, it comes out of the music. But it's connected, it is. You know, it's easy for me to say that about him. It's not so easy to say that about myself, but I do know it's true. You know? Yeah.
How different is your next release from your previous work?
I just can't put a word on it for you. I mean, like, to me, I wanted to create, ironically, I wanted to create like the last Johnny Cash record. You know, I wanted to do something like, I don't know, that has like somewhat of a country western, but it doesn't. If it does it, it's very, very out there anyway. It's just one song I wrote was very much like a cowboy song, but it's not. I actually took an older song, because these kids are riding all over the place now in America and all over the world. I did a song in the 70s. Billy Idol copped the whole thing. It was called Outlaw. More for the poor, and Billy, whatever he did, consider it as a poor, or the more thing. He called me up once. I said, well, why don't you just put the song on the album already? He wanted some advice on making music. I said, put the fucking song on the album already, make some money. But, so anyway, but I took out the, I put it in more and more. I didn't use the word outlaw. It's just, that's what these kids are screaming about. They really want more for the poor. And it struck me that here's this song in the year 2011 now, and I wrote it in like I wrote it in 81, 82. And so all these years later, 30 some odd years later, or less, 25 years later, 28 years, I can't even count it anymore. Why is it so relevant now? Again, the way it was then. And I don't know, it's funny, I've been working on it for so long, I can't tell you right from left and up from down. I put on these vocals, which I'd like to do real quick if I can. It's very often the first time is, I'll go back over them again and just check out little things. My engineer claims all the vocals are different, the things are great, this, that, blah, blah, blah. He's usually pretty good at this. My wife came in to hear a couple of songs and swears by them. And I can't tell you anything at all about them. I want to be like Johnny Cash. That was like the goal in a way. Of course, it's not like Johnny Cash, but it's like still like Johnny Cash. And so who knows? It's not Johnny Cash at all. It could be very futuristic. It could be very old-fashioned. I don't know. I really don't know. We'll have to find out when it gets listened to. Very few people have heard it, so I don't know what the reactions are going to be. And I don't really care, to be honest with you. I hope nobody listens to it. It was meant for nobody to listen to it. My engineer can't help it, he's there, you know. Aside from that, I don't care.
Wouldn't it surprise you if all the reviewers said it sounds just like Johnny Cash?
That'd be great. That'd be cool. It's already they can write, man, this sounds like total shit. That's cool too. You know, I mean, it's all right. You know? It has to be. I trust myself, you know. So, and if I'm finished, I'm finished. That's cool.
It's the process.
Yeah, it is.
What are some of your influences today? Like, what's some of the music that you guys listen to now?
Well, we'd have to answer that, I guess, individually. But I listen to, I just scan everything.
Visual art and music, like both, you know, as a whole, like with you. Like, are there any new artists out now that are really shining for you? You know, that you're looking at for influence and stuff like that?
Not for influence for me personally, because it's hard to get influenced by stuff that's close.
Right.
You know, people in the same kind of world, which is pretty much the world we're in. So I end up listening. I scan a lot of stuff. I hear a lot of stuff on the radio. Sometimes I don't know who it is. And a lot of different aspects of music. And some stuff that I've heard years ago, and like Alan was saying about instruments. You can hear a piece you heard 20 years ago or 200 times or 20 times. And you hear it one day, and it's probably because it's close to what you're working on at the time. And you hear a whole other aspect of it, and it like connects to what you're doing, and it gives you information or just another kind of a reference point to what you're doing now, and you hear a whole other side of it. So there's so much stuff that's been done that is so rich, you know, like instruments too. And the same thing with art for me too. It's just, you know, I can go back to, you know, I can go back way before the Renaissance, but I tend to go, you know, personally Renaissance all the way up to now. And I don't get that really influence, like I'm saying, even from art now, but it's nice to see really good people who are really have done something, had a dedication for a long time, a sense of humor, but really, you know, with thought. Thought is really, I think, what ingrains the best of all works. It's the thought that went into it, and the skill and whatnot, or the life. And it's just nice that it's like friends, you know, if you see an artist that's kind of been through that kind of process. It's not really the work that influences you so much, but it's just knowing that there's someone else out there who's doing it. It's like, it's kind of like that.